Welcome back everyone, my name is Scalibur, and today we're going to be exploring a number of interesting new features that you could probably think was quite strange based on their nature. So, yeah. But as you can see, this diamond sword that I'm holding isn't actually a feature. Or is it? Welcome back everyone to Caelesti. This is update 0.19.1, the first sub-update of the visual enchantments update, and I think it's worth noting that some of you may have realised that there's been quite a bit of a slowdown on content on my channel recently. I've been kind of losing motivation to work on Caelesti quite a bit, mostly because of the fact that I've recently moved to university and I'm doing a lot more stuff now in my real life stuff than I was beforehand. A lot of you know that my kind of like, fame on YouTube blew up from around 200 people to now almost 700 because of quarantine. I could pour 14 hours a day into doing this stuff. I had nothing else to do in life and it was good times. Now life is kind of returning to normal and I'm in a very social situation and I'm really enjoying myself, so I don't really have that much time to work on Caelesti, and unfortunately at the moment I'm not enjoying it that much either. Now that doesn't mean that Caelesti is going to die. This is just how my workflow really is. Basically what I'm probably going to do now is simply take a break from Caelesti for maybe a month or 2 months until December or January, for example, and then we can come back to it and work on some really cool features after I've been away, had loads of inspiration, and now have loads of motivation to work on stuff. In the meantime, I'm planning on starting the ever-teased tutorial series that a lot of people are very interested in seeing and I'm very interested in making, and I'm also interested in working more on our data pack Artibus, which kind of died unfortunately, so hopefully I'll be able to work on some of those things and bring you guys some more quality content. But until then, I just wanted to introduce you to some new features that have been brought to Caelesti in 0.19.1. So first of all, we have a crossbow texture, and this is actually a perfect example of somewhere that I am not entirely happy with the product of my work. So originally, my plans for the crossbow were to make textures for multi-shot, which is what I've done here. You can see that the front metal part of the crossbow gets larger and wider, and it houses 3 arrows or three crossbows. Imagine a crossbow that shoots mini crossbows. A crossbow that houses 3 fireworks, as you can see there. Now, what I did in order to do this was I first of all remade the original crossbow texture. I don't like it though. I couldn't come up with anything that I actually liked, unfortunately. Now, I have recently seen some better looking crossbows from other people and been inspired to make something which is more rigid and more intimidating looking, I guess, without these like curved bow arms at the side, but more like a straight out to the side crossbow arm, which is more sturdy and solid, and that's kind of like something that I would like to have more. So I'm probably going to come back at some point in the future and redo these, and it's for that reason alone that I didn't get on to doing piercing for the crossbow, because originally I was planning on doing multi-shot with 3 arrows and 3 fireworks when they are fully loaded, or of course planning on doing piercing where the crossbow is just bigger and beefier to intimidate, to make it seem like the crossbow would be more powerful. So this is kind of a bit of a failure for the visual enchantments update. Not really much has been achieved, but I do have quite a big announcement to make. A lot of you will know, with the ginormous swords that we have in Caelesti now, if I get myself Smite 5, obviously a lot of you will know by now that we have these ginormous swords that you get whenever you enchant yourself with a big sword enchantment at max level. Basically what these do is they use a bunch of model elements. So as you can see here, the way that this sword works is it's actually every single line of pixels that you see is a cube, and this whole thing is a ginormous model which is imitating the way that items are generated normally in vanilla Minecraft. It's quite sneaky and it does work quite well, but it's not very performance efficient. It includes a lot of files in Caelesti, and it's also not too good for performance if you are not running on a great PC as well. So I have recently discovered a way, thanks to you and Howl, giving me a bit of a tip on how to branch from item generated in using item generated but with double the size with a high resolution texture. So at some point in the future I'm going to go back and change every single one of our huge visual enchantment textures to basically use that system instead of the current model system, because it will be a lot more performance efficient. And moving on from that, I have finally gotten around to animating the beacon rods. We made the beacon model a long time ago. In fact, when we made it, the Obsidian texture that's being used on the base here was completely different, and now it's also updated because it is actually just using the regular Obsidian texture, and I think that this animation looks pretty snazzy. It's basically just the same thing as before in terms of the 4 different colors that were on the beacon rods, but now they just move upwards. That's it. I think it looks really good. I think it looks kind of cool. I've also animated the beacon beam as well. Now, this one is less obvious, but if you look at the individual cubes within the beacon beam, you can kind of see what's happening here. Originally, I was planning on doing something where there would be an upwards or downwards or rotating animation within the beacon beam, but the truth is, this thing moves upwards way too quickly. If you have an animation with a particle moving downwards in the beacon beam and animate it at the fastest speed possible, it cannot keep up with the speed at which this beacon beam is going upwards. And if you look at it, it actually is moving upwards quite fast, so it does make sense, to say the least. I've tried doing random variants with this. A lot of you know that I love doing random variants, but I just can't get it to work still. I don't know how you do random variants for beacon beams. It's very odd. So if anyone can give me a bit of advice on that one, that would be extremely helpful as well. I've also now added some random variants to the crying obsidian, as you can see. Last time when we did crying obsidian, I made the mistake of making it way too noisy. It was way too populated. It did look kind of good in my opinion, but it didn't look good when you had a lot of it in one place like this. Now, coming back to it, I've had a bit of a more creative thought, and obviously, as you can see here, occasionally when we have crying obsidian, we have like the plates cracked off with this kind of like murky brown interior revealed wherever it's been done. And of course, we still have the purple cracks split along the obsidian, but we now have 16 variants in total of crying obsidian, and I think they look much better, especially in bulk as well. Moving on from that, we have a new texture system for the enchanting table. Originally, this update was going to be called the bookshelf update because I was going to make some really complex and interesting 3D models for bookshelves to accompany our new, more interesting enchantment table. But as I explained before, my motivation has been whack recently, so I didn't get around to doing it properly. I kind of came up with a theoretical model multiple times that were very flawed in some cases, but I was never truly happy with what I've been making, and that was why I decided to shelf it. Unfortunately, the biggest problem I've had with previous updates is releasing something that I'm not entirely happy with because I want to finish Caelesti. Caelesti is not even 20% finished for all of you that are interested in getting a figure in mind. But yeah, we're not really getting there anytime soon because I don't want to. I'm enjoying the way that this works right now. I'm enjoying taking my time and putting a lot of effort into every individual feature that we make. Now, I still haven't figured out how to make the enchantment table emissive in terms of the actual book itself, so now the entire thing is just not emissive. I've also darkened the color of these stripes that are going around the actual base of the table to make it look like they're not something that would glow. Like, that's a color that would glow, that's a color that would not glow. And yes, these are actually all emissive, even though they give off light, as well as the respawn anchor's base down here as well. And the reason for that is because it works with shaders. Now, let me give you an example. Actually, I'm gonna. This is why my videos are always so long, isn't it? Because I just go off topic about random stuff. Okay, so with crying obsidian. If you place down, that's a terrible example. If you place down crying obsidian, as you can see there, crying obsidian actually gives off light. Now, if you use shaders, which I'm not going to turn on because my computer takes ages to load them for some reason, I think it is Caelesti's fault, then it will actually get a bit of a glow and a bit of a haze around these purple areas where the emissive properties have been applied. And it also works especially well when you see it in the item form, because this is not giving out the usual max light level that crying obsidian block would give out. So you can see that the little stripes within the block are a little bit brighter than they actually should be, and I think it looks really nice. Now, on the other hand, Mojang is inconsistent as ever, so the respawn anchor, even though it's made of crying obsidian, doesn't give off light if it has no charges. And then obviously, I don't know why they did this, but if you give it charges, it then does give off light. Oh no, not on the first level. It gives off light on the second level, and the third bit more, and the fifth a bit more, as you can see there. So the respawn anchor doesn't give off light, unfortunately, but you know, that means it works well for emissive if it's got no or one charges. So I guess that's kind of cool. But yes, so again, they are emissive, so they will give a bit of a haze whenever you are using shaders. In fact, you can see here, this is the issue. So look, that looks way brighter than that, right? Tell me I'm wrong. Okay, that's not my fault. That is the fault of Mojang being inconsistent with the way that these things work. Because these give off light, the emissive doesn't appear as bright as it does here. But the stupid thing is, if you look at the obsidian behind the purple glint, you can see the obsidian is much darker here and much brighter here. It's because this thing is now a light source, whereas this thing is not. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Anyway, moving on from that, I planted a sapling here, but it decided to grow. Apparently, I should have put a barrier block over it, shouldn't I? Yes. Anyway, dark Prince Birch trees are a birch tree that we had in Caelesti for the longest time now. I really like the idea of these dark purple like birch trees that you can get in real life as well. I always remember that when I was in primary school as a kid, there was a tree just like this that I used to walk past every day, and it had like the typical birch log colors and this really dark crimsony, browny, reddy, purpley leaf color, I guess, and it was kind of cool. I still to this day don't really like the fact that all the logs are huge, because birch trees, in my opinion, should be much thinner, more like fence sized, but you obviously can't do that, so whatever, we'll have to just make do. But I really like the way that this looks, and obviously I think that this new color scheme for the Dark Prince is pretty good as well. I recently switched to a new monitor, which is a lot more color accurate than my old monitor, and I've kind of realized that a lot of our colors were quite bad. In a video a while back, I actually changed the jungle tree colors as well for the same reason, and I recently found the dark birch biome colors, which obviously spawn in the dark forest, as you can see here. They only spawn in the dark forest and the dark forest hills, and basically they were way too purple. They were way too vivid, and that is not what they should be. So I simply went into the color map file and I reduced the saturation of their color and maybe darkened it a little bit, and maybe tweaked the shade of purple or whatever you want to say. And yeah, now we have this new color. So I also updated the sapling to reflect that color as well. And finally, we have a bit of spooky scariness for this update. We have new pumpkins. I didn't really realize this at the time, but obviously, as you guys saw, I released the unintentional Halloween update teaser. I started working on pumpkins in this update just because I wanted to anyway, and then realized, hey, it's Halloween, so fitting, I guess. That's pretty cool. We have 6 different variants for the pumpkin face. I love doing this. I can't believe I've never done pumpkins before. It's really fun to do. So I made a new pumpkin texture, as you can see here. I actually spoke to the guys on the PCO quite a bit about this one and got a bit of feedback, and ended up refining back this texture quite a bit. The first pumpkin texture that I was happy with is actually this one, and if you look at it from the back, you can see that it looks completely different to our regular pumpkin, and that's because I'm using my original pumpkin texture that I was okay with for some reason as the texture for the carved pumpkins, because it kind of looks like it's kind of gone a bit mushy and starting to decay a little bit, which is what you'd expect of a carved pumpkin. It's been carved out and it's going to die in the next few days. So as you can see there, the pumpkin looks like it's kind of mushy and dying, so I think that actually works quite well. And this also gives you 2 texture variants as well, so if you really are a mad lad who wants to build with pumpkins, I guess that's something that you can do now. Let me see if I can come up with something real quick. Look at me, building with Scalibur. That's a meme at this point, right? I think it is. Boop, boop, boop. Let's see how that looks. Look at that. It's varied. Yeah, it looks ridiculous. I don't know why I thought that would be a good idea, but we tried it, So now you know that it doesn't look good without having to try it yourself. You are very much welcome. But yeah, as you can see there, we have 6 different variants for both the regular pumpkin and the carved. Wait, that's not the regular. The carved pumpkin and the jack-o'-lantern. And the cool thing about this as well is that you will always get the same face wherever you place the pumpkin, so because they both use the same weight values. So if you have an angry face here, then it will be an angry face when it becomes a jack-o'-lantern as well. If we have the kind of derpy face here, it'll be the derpy face when it becomes a jack-o'-lantern. If we have this crying, ghast-esque face, then it will be that same face when it becomes a regular pumpkin. And you can see that is kind of consistent across all of these as well. This one right here in the front is the creeper face. I think it looks really cool. I wanted to have some sort of reference to the creeper in the pumpkins, and I thought that would be really sick. If you could see a creeper wearing this, that would look so cool. But unfortunately, all mobs use the item texture when they wear it in their head slot, which is fine. It still looks kind of cool. And as you can see here, I've also updated the pumpkin, what's it called? The overlay, the pumpkin overlay, I guess, to use this new kind of style. This is actually inspired by Overgrowth by Chalk. He actually told me that his pumpkin overlay was very orange and brown on the edges, because in reality it wouldn't just be a stark black. And I also liked the idea of having it just be a simple oval. And my explanation for this is quite interesting. Obviously in Minecraft, usually you have this huge chunky pumpkin face kind of effect when you wear a pumpkin. But in reality, for your head to see the full pumpkin face, your head would have to be tiny and right in the back of the pumpkin. But in reality, the player's head and the actual size of the pumpkin aren't that far apart, so that doesn't really make any sense. In reality, if you were wearing one of these, your eyes would be right up against the eye holes, and you would probably just see something that looks a little bit like this. So it's also more convenient, it also makes more sense, and it's less pixelated, so it's kind of just a big win for everyone, really, isn't it? And finally, we have an updated texture for the melon as well. Again, my melon texture originally was just a simple recolor of the vanilla melon, which is bad. And yeah, that brings me to the final point of this episode. At some point in the future, I'm going to go through Caelesti and remove every single texture that is just a simple recolor or remake of a vanilla texture with only slight and like tiny changes, and we're going to switch to this new way of doing things like with the pumpkin, where I redesign every single face in my own style and try and make it fit this style that Caelesti has recently become. You can see I've been doing that with the Obsidian and the Crying Obsidian. I've been doing that with the gem blocks and the stone types, and we're going to be doing more of that in the near future. So there we go, that's it really. Anyway, not too long of a video today, thankfully. I've not got that many features for you, but finally we do have one more feature I want to show off, and we're going to head over to another world to showcase it. So you guys know that I love my weird experimental features in Caelesti, and this is another one of those features. This doesn't really work very well, if I'm completely honest, and I'm going to go over some of the reasons why it doesn't in just a moment. But as you can see here, I've tried to implement an additional ice model, which adds tiny little cubes of ice that are sort of breaking off from the mass of ice, but only when it's in the snowy beach biome and only when it's at height 62, which these blocks are currently at. Now, this is a bit of a weird situation, to be honest, because I kind of like it. I don't entirely like it. It's a bit of a weird one. I basically saw a very similar image online that someone had made, and I think it was either a mod or maybe it was a resource pack, and it had additional things in it, like items sticking out of the ice occasionally as a little Easter egg, I guess you could say, and like pollution to be politically active and all that. And I kind of liked the vibe. I kind of think it looked cool, but as you can see, it's not perfect. I don't know why this happens. Unfortunately, it's very strange behavior. I don't really understand what to do about that, but hopefully we can fix that at some point in the future. I do have ideas about how to fix this feature, but for the time being, I haven't implemented them just yet, because I wanted to give this to you guys and see what you had to say about it, because I kind of like it, but I also don't, because it's a bit weird. But yeah, as you can see here, I've got a big wall of ice, and what I've basically done is had it so that Optifine will not render these cubes unless they're at Y62 or unless they're in this specific biome. But unfortunately, the model still gets rendered, and you still get these weird issues where you occasionally see like a broken texture pane thing. I don't know how to... Yeah, you see, like it's so inconsistent. You can kind of see what's going on there, but it's weird. I don't know how to explain it, basically. But the problem is, this gets rendered all the time. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter in what biome of the world you are, what height you are. These cubes will always be rendered. Just the problem is the game will not actually give them a texture unless they're in a specific biome and a specific height. But the problem then is that you get these weird transparent cutout cubes that don't really make any sense and occasionally just disappear if you look at them from the correct angle. It's very strange. I don't really know what to do about this, to be honest. If I can come up with a way of fixing this, I do want to keep this in the pack, because I think it's kind of a cool feature. But for the time being, it's probably not going to be kept in the pack, unfortunately. But yeah, but at least for 0.19.1, you guys can hopefully see this for yourselves, check it out, and give me any feedback if you guys do like the feature. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Caelesti. If you do have any feedback for me, as always, please do feel free to comment below. If you're interested in joining the discussion, please do join the Discord group in the description. There's a lot of passionate people over there, and we like discussing all things Minecraft, all things that you can imagine to do with Caelesti and vanilla Minecraft, modded Minecraft, and everything else. And yeah, and just touching again on the topic I started at the beginning of this video, I am now going to be taking a break from working on Caelesti. That doesn't mean that I'm going to entirely stop working on Caelesti. It just means that I'm going to be much slower, and there probably isn't going to be another update for some time now. But I will still have regular content coming out, such as Artibus and even other series as well, so you can look forward to seeing that in the next couple of weeks. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, have a very nice day, and a bye-bye.